Hey all, it's March 9th. Um, I guess this is a thing I do every week now because I carved like a good hour out of my day to come out here and do this. I wasn't planning on coming out here today. So I guess this is something I do now, which is fine. It's a good time. Um, it is well. This is my second take of doing this because I literally said in the first take of oh, it's really foggy today. Like it's real foggy. Um, and I was like, oh, there'll be no one around. And then, not 5 minutes into my recording, a gaggle of school children, like 20 strong, just came right along up there. And they took their sweet fucking time walking all the way the long way around the far end of that field over there. And then some guy with his dog stood 30 feet away from me, wandering around in circles for a good 10 minutes as well. So, um, yeah, it's been an interesting attempt this time around. So it's somehow the most disrupted of all of them. And I'm in a pretty secluded area of this fucking park. Like, to be clear, I'm in the far back corner. I'm a far back. Either way, I've had like a weird work week where I've made a lot of progress on things, but not a lot I can like go into detail about. I'm still working on the April one-page adventure. It is called, as of now, I may change the name, but as of now, it is called Ludus Maximus, which is the big game, effectively. Yeah, it's game in like two senses of the word. It is like a social adventure. It is about going to doing some like social roleplay and espionage at a chariot race, and it is probably the most genuinely actually system neutral of any adventure I've ever of any of the system neutral adventures that I've written that are more they're for anything BX derived generally. It's the system neutral stuff. It's more OSR as opposed to system neutral specifically. But whatever, who cares? It doesn't matter. Um, so I've been working on that. I've made some good progress on some writing stuff for Nimble. Um, the A lot of the stuff that I didn't realize it was like shown publicly, the kind of stuff I was talking about. I can say like there's an adventure that has my name on it on the Kickstarter page. I believe there's a couple days left on it. Monsters and More for Nimble. The Kickstarter, realistically, Nimble Kickstarter into Google should give you the result. Like that's how Google works. But yeah, there's Tears of a Parched God is an adventure I wrote for like a Nimble Games Jam last year, that is receiving like a second, like a round of like proper printing as opposed to semi-public release on Evan's Patreon. It's I added a bunch of extra content to it, and it's getting a new coat of paint basically. I have a couple other adventures, one called Downfall, that is the one I'm in the process of writing, and then one other adventure that is currently unnamed and isn't really talked about on the Kickstarter that much, so I won't get into it. Also, still, it's mostly just like a premise right now. There's no written content for it. Yeah, I haven't got to it. I'm still writing Downfall. Downfall is cool though. Yeah, Evan had like a lot of like really good notes of I'm gonna put some of my own spin on this, but it's like you've given me like a page of detailed notes on how this thing should work, and your notes are just good. Why would I not use them? Right? Like use them, pretty much whole cloth, because they're good ideas. There's no point in not using them for the sake of not using them. um, so yeah, that's ongoing. I just now, like on the way to sitting here, nailed down a date for playtesting my next full-length adventure. I say the next full-length adventure that I am publishing atop the Dragon Summit by Joe Wilson, a friend of mine who's been an editor and a designer on a lot of different things that I've worked on. And I talked a lot last week about this sort of project that I had of getting like people that I knew who had been playing games for a long time to really try and like sink their teeth into adventure writing and see what they can like get out of the experience. And so far, I have one finished adventure, one very strong concept that is still being fleshed out, and one adventure in like early editing phase and yeah, some like really cool shit. That is, it's one of those things where literally it is my belief that like writing is especially like adventure writing like this, it's not difficult in the traditional sense where it's like hard to clear. Like you think of like traditional painting, right? The bar of not a complete piece of shit is really fucking high, right? Like you have to have you have to be genuinely actually good at the thing to be able to clear the not a giant pile of shit bar. Whereas an adventure, like, that fucking magpie is loud as hell, dude. Shut up. um, that like pile of shit line for an adventure, especially if it's an adventure for your home game, that bar is in the fucking ocean, right? But if it's even a published adventure, it's not to say that most published adventures are bad. That's not what I'm saying. I mean the bar to write something that is usable at the table and interesting is not that high. It just takes time and attention to detail, and like some like dedication, like a little bit of learning. Like it is an art form. It has stratospheric heights, right? Like the best adventures that out there that you can read and you can play will put those like passing grade stuff completely to shame. But to make something that's like usable is anyone can do it. I'm very confident in that fact, and doing this sort of experiment with people who have been playing tabletop role-playing games, none who have really been playing like OSR styled games, but have been playing tabletop role-playing games for a very long time, have taken to and are taking to it very, very well. Like the Atop the Dragon Summit, which is finished, is sweet. Like it went through 2 rounds of editing of no really big changes. Like it was like, oh, this room could use some stuff, or oh, this puzzle could use like some more sauce, right? Like normal editing shit that I see every day. Yeah, I could talk at further lengths about like my sort of feelings on it, but like, yeah, I do genuinely like if you want to write adventures, start small, study other adventures in the game that you want to write adventures for, and then just go. Open up a Google Doc, just start writing. You check reference. How do they format this? Like what how study the format. That's the thing that most people, I would say, for just game design in general, if you're designing for a pre-existing thing or designing your own game, be consistent with your format. That's like the big thing that makes adventures and game content usable. Is if you don't follow the format, what you've got is probably not great, or very messy, which in terms of adventure is probably not great. But I also, separate note, on the subject of playtesting and designing, yesterday I finished the first full-length playtest of my TTRPG, Cape. Cape is a superhero role-playing game, a sort of action-oriented superhero role-playing game that is designed to put a lot of power in the player's corner to create their own character exactly the way that they want to. The thing there is I've talked about Cape a little bit in passing, particularly when I was just starting to work on it. I think probably the better part of a year ago now. It is you basically, the way that Cape works is you create your character, you set your 4 stats, which are creativity, agility, proficiency, endurance, CAPE. The game was called Pace, or the game used the acronym PACE didn't have a name for a really long time. It took me an embarrassing amount of time to realize I'd stumbled into a set of stats that perfectly anagrammed to Cape, which I promise you that's not a joke. It took me 6 months at least to realize that fact. It is truly, truly embarrassing. It's very, very funny. But it is, you pick your stats, which determine various things. The stats are all of relatively equal importance, so if you dump a stat, you're going to feel it in some way. Some less than others, of course, but like here and there, like there's certain stats that are like, depending on how you build your character. But even so, the and you make powers. You have power points you can spend on different things. Like, oh, if you want your power to do 1 damage, that costs 1 point. For every 1 extra damage, it costs 2 more points per extra damage it does. So if you want a power that does 3 damage, that's 1, 2, 3, 5 power points. If you want it to be to have a range of near, that's 1 extra point. That's 6 points. If you want it to have to be a small area, that's 1 extra point. That's 7 points. And then you want it to slow enemies who fail their save against it. That's an extra, I believe, 2 points. That brings it to 9. And then, the downside of the power. To reduce the cost, it costs you 1 stamina to use. That reduces the cost by, I think, 1 off the top of my head. That brings it back down to 8 points, and there you go. That's your power. You can then, at later advancement levels, you can upgrade the power, spend more points to make it stronger. There is like a cap on how many points you can to stick it all in one power. Like, that is what that playtest has been ironing out core mechanics and finding out some really realizing I need to make some big changes to combat for the sort of version 0.2, as it were, of the system I have at the minute. To explain it very briefly, is heroes, like player characters, get 3 turns every round. Each turn is 1 move, 1 action. That has created just so many problems, and I need to get rid of it. Basically, I need to get rid of it. So instead, villain characters also have 3 turns, and then you've got minions that have 1 turn, which are you're random. Like, it's the bat, that guy. I just get a Batman. Like, those guys, they're minions. They have 1 turn, and they do 1 thing every round. There's that I need to just fold down into everybody gets 1 turn, and the players or heroes get 3 actions on their turn. And then villains get 3 actions, minions get 1 action, and then elite enemies, which I made quite late on in the design space, because I realized, man, I really need a middle ground between super ultra dangerous named character and little wiener named, small pony with a gun. I need to make a middle ground of Big Tony, who's the big muscly guy who punches you in the head, right? That's the guy that I need. So yeah, I've learned a lot of really good lessons about design stuff with that. I could talk for a very long time about the design of Cape and its sort of process and the kinds of things that change throughout the design space. Just looking at some of my players' character sheets show the different stages of design that the game has gone through. Hell, even just looking at the character sheet and how many weird mistakes I made when making it, and how many weird omissions I ended up accidentally making. It was a lot of lessons learned, all very positive. It was a very, very positive experience. The playtest itself was also great fun. It ended in a really satisfying way. I won't get into it. I'll be here for another 20 minutes, but yeah, it's going well. My dream for me, as a designer, is to be able to have the funds, or the means, I guess, broadly, to produce Cape to a professional capacity and release it publicly. Because I think Cape has a lot of potential to be a game that a lot of people, particularly people like me, who love to scratch that game design itch even when they're playing games, because that's what Cape encourages you to do, is to come up with a creative character. I had four characters in my group. I had a hero who could create portals at will, proved to be very, very powerful, as I'm sure you can guess. A hero who could paint objects and who could bring their own paintings to life and use spray paint to create summoned minions. That was his thing. I had a player who was a begrudged middle-aged magical girl. That's pretty self-explanatory. I say middle-aged, I think she was 35, but even then, she was a magical girl when she was a teenager, stopped being a magical girl, now she's 35, and the magical girl stuff comes back, and she goes from being a depressed office worker to a less depressed-looking woman in her 30s in a tutu. It's honestly very compelling character. She's very fun. And the last guy who controls waterfowl, specifically ducks and geese and swans and that brand of thing, that's a whole thing. Um, it's inspired by that fear of somewhere a duck is watching you, like that kind of like a joke phobia of people who are apparently afraid of somewhere in the distance a duck is watching you. Like that's, I mean, I would love to meet someone who is that fear. I think they'd have a bad time where I am right now. I don't. There's no ducks in my immediate vicinity, but I know there's a good few just down there. There's there's a little like pond and river situations down there. Like they're fun characters, and all of those were like really easy to make because that's how Cape is designed. And I want people to be able to make really fucking weird characters in Cape. With one GMs to be able to make really weird villains in Cape. That is what I want. And the playtest has proven that that is very much possible. I'm looking forward to playtesting it again. What the fuck else is on my list? The last thing I kind of wanted to touch on, I wanted to try and keep this shorter, but I always say that and I never do because I always go off on a tangent. The last thing I kind of wanted to sort of talk about is not something I'm necessarily working on, but something that is sort of in my mind because it's the next. Because I'm not writing any full length, because all of these like projects like Atop the Dragon Summit and these other like adventures written by friends kind of is bogging down AJ, my artist, for extended periods of time to do the art for those adventures, which means I'm not going to be releasing any full length adventures that I have written until like the tail end of this year. Certainly not until like September. I don't think. But I have one that is like like in here that I'm very very excited for. It doesn't have a name yet, but it is my first hex crawl. And I really like hex crawls. I've just never been in a position where I have an idea that justifies one. I'm really looking forward to like studying older and some newer hex crawls. Really sort of like I need to go and like read old and new hex crawls alike and see what kind of content they have. The adventure has a premise that I'm really, really happy with. Basically, the adventure is taking a very normal D&D monster that people don't tend to like big up all that much, the Wyvern, and turns it into an extremely dangerous. Someone's got a machine. I'm gonna try and wrap this up because they're getting very close now. I'm sure it's quite loud. It is for me anyway. Let's stand up and walk. That'll probably solve the problem. There we go. We're walking now. Walking away from the loud noise. Taking a wyvern and making it a terrifying predator. Lots of OSR games use morale. I think morale is really cool. I like it as a way of creating sort of like AI for your, like video game AI, not generative AI, for your monsters that isn't just like DM fiat of like just deciding shit arbitrarily for monsters. Morale adds a sort of sense of like gamified objectivity, which is not. Oh, now it's louder. Well, I guess we're going this way now. A sort of gamified objectivity to monsters that I don't think it's like necessarily, but like it's cool. It's a cool system to be able to use when it's appropriate to use, right? And I want this thing to operate like a real predator. Like a good example is when wolves hunt. Wolves are pack hunters. So it's not a perfect analogy here, but like when wolves hunt, they have a system where they will surround an animal, say a stag, sort of traditional thing for a wolf to hunt. They will surround a stag, and the stag stands its ground because that's what the stag is like, sort of wired to do until it thinks it can't anymore. And wolves, they won't make the jump. They won't pounce unless it runs, because something that stands up to 4 wolves is something that is dangerous to the wolves, and the wolves know that on some instinctual level. They don't fully necessarily grasp that fact, but they know it instinctually. That if something stands up to them, it means it's not outwardly afraid of them and isn't going to run away, which means it may have something up its sleeve that they aren't ready for, and they might get injured. Predators don't want to get injured because injured means you can't hunt, and can't hunt means you die. Like, you starve. Monsters in D&D, very traditionally, it's like they just wail on you until they're dead or until you're dead. I want this wyvern, this like older, wiser wyvern or whatever, to have a distinct morale system of it rolls morale whenever prey, such as heroes, stand their ground against it, whenever it takes damage, whenever anything happens, for it to be this menace. I want the players to hate this fucking lizard by the time the campaign is over. I want them to hate the lizard because it will swoop in, try and grab one of them, try and sting one of them, and then the second they get a nick on it, like they stab it once, it leaves, it fucks off. And maybe after a while it becomes afraid of them. It doesn't want to deal with them and it runs away. But like, their job is to fucking kill it. That's what the adventure is about. It's killing this wyvern that's menacing this town. And that's the adventure I want to write. I'm really excited to like have a good amount of time to like start working on it. And I think it's gonna be fucking sick if I can get that feeling right. I'm hoping I can do that because I really, really want to be able to do that. But yeah, I'm going to leave that there for today before hedge trimmer person starts up again. I hope that wasn't too bad. I've not actually walked that far away. I realized maybe I'm more exposed to it. I don't know. Either way, I'm gonna. Oh, there he goes again. I'm gonna head out now and go home. I have maps to make for atop the Dragon Summit, so I'm gonna go do those. So yeah, I will see you all next week. Bye.